the Fabian Society don't even whisper about infiltrating and influencing key institutions in Britain anymore. They openly boast about it. Listen to this from the Fabian Society conference just yesterday. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, proudly telling the room,
"It's great to see the not-so-secret cabal going from strength first to strength."
Well, obviously, he's having a little bit of fun there, because it isn't a secret cabal anymore, is it? Now, maybe, of course, I'm sure he meant it as a joke, but when a political society that has spent 140 years designing state expansion, institutional capture and ideological governance calls itself a cabal and says it's growing stronger, people are entitled to ask, cabal of what? And power over whom? Establishment journalists don't want us talking about this. They've been all over the internet disparaging us, even having a conversation about the Fabians, and we'll get into to see whether they're right or wrong. Then we heard yesterday from the policy chairman of the City of London Corporation, Chris Hayward, not a partisan activist, not a fringe commentator, the man representing the financial heart of the Corporation of London. He told the conference this.
Today marks the third year that we have hosted this conference, and it represents only part of a wider record of collaboration between the City of London and the Fabian Society. And in marshalling today's discussions under the theme of renewal, the Fabians could not have selected a more fitting location.
Indeed. A wider record of collaboration between an unelected ideological society and the governing corporation of the critical City of London Square Mile. He continues on.
And that's why I take such pride in the recently operationalised Office for Investment Financial Services, based right here at the Guildhall, whose Industry Advisory Board I chair, and which was set up in conjunction with Rachel Reeves and the government. It's set to unlock £10 billion in investment, so the inward investment. So the OFIFS is already operating as a strategic one-stop shop for international finance firms looking to invest in the United Kingdom. And it represents, ladies and gentlemen, a collaboration, a model for collaboration between His Majesty's government, regulators, businesses and the City of London Corporation.
It's not really whispered anymore, isn't it? So let's be clear. A Fabian conference hosted at the Guildhall, City of London leadership openly collaborating with the Fabian Society, an investment office created with the government and the Chancellor of the Exchequer, billions in capital flows coordinated through that structure. This isn't just a think tank scribbling pamphlets in a back room anymore, is it? This is an ideological network operating inside the machinery of state, finance and regulation. And then the Fabian General Secretary proudly confirms,
"We've been shaping the future of the left since 1884, the incubator for some of the best ideas and some of the most transformative policies that have shaped our country, from the NHS to the minimum wage, and we've got really big plans for this year ahead."
Their words, not mine. Incubator of transformative national policy. Plans for the year ahead. And secretaries of state in that room, who are Fabians, by the way, too, taking notes. Now, here's the key question. We're told the Bank of England is independent of ministers, independent of political ideology, independent of government direction. But the current governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, was chairman of the Fabian Society at university. He is now, of course, a Conservative peer. That is a matter of record, though. We've just heard that the City of London Corporation openly has declared its collaboration with the Fabian Society. We've heard that investment strategy is being designed in conjunction with government ministers who themselves are Fabian members. We've heard the Fabians describe themselves as an incubator of national policy. So when we're told the Bank of England is independent of government, which is a Fabian policy, by the way, the question is simple. Independent of which government and embedded in which ideological network? Because if the same political society trains the ministers, advises the policy, hosts the conferences, collaborates with the City of London, and then boasts about incubating national legislation, then independence, in my view, becomes a technical label, not a reality. This is Fabian socialist gradualism in practice. And that practice is this: not revolution, not riots, just patient institutional embedding, one advisory board at a time, one policy paper at a time, one collaboration at a time, one appointment at a time, one piece of legislation at a time. And when they call themselves a not-so-secret cabal, perhaps we should take them at their word for that, because they're very open about it now. The question is, how deep do these connections go, and who is really in charge of Britain's future? Because you should have a democracy that is free from collusion amongst, well, political pressure groups, ministers, and the independent bodies of state. Right, let's get the thoughts of my panel. We're well equipped to discuss this issue tonight because I've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks with me, former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, and former Conservative MP Jane Stevenson. Bill, I'll come to you first. And I have got a line here. We meant to do this last night. Paul Richards in the room, and he is the honorary treasurer, Paul Richards, of the Fabian Society. And, of course, I will read out something he sent me earlier on because, you know, and I just want to say this before we get started. I'm not trying to breed a conspiracy theory here. I think that it's really important in a democracy that we ask questions of institutions that are influencing bodies of government, influencing ministers, of which many of them, parts of the manifesto of the Fabians, has become national policy. And I think that's a very fair, journalistic and integral question to how our democracy works in Britain. Bill?
I think keep taking the tablets, Alex. This is the most overhyped, exaggerated piece I've ever experienced on your show. The Fabians have been around since the creation of the Labour Party. Go back in history, Sydney, Beatrice, Webb were there at the creation of the Labour Party. Over the years, it's a think tank. It seeks to develop policy. It seeks to influence policy. It doesn't set party policy. It doesn't dictate it. It doesn't operate in secret. It's not a cabal. The sponsorship from the City of London. The City of London sponsors all kinds of things, and this is just one example. In my experience, the Fabian Society is not actually desperately left-wing in Labour Party terms. It's a kind of centrist part of the Labour Party, and bluntly, it's not very influential. But, you know, it serves a purpose.
Wait, hang on. Not very influential. Chancellor of the Exchequer, the Prime Minister, the Health Secretary, the Mayor of London, they're all Fabians. They're all Ed Miliband. They've gone to that conference today, and many of the things that the Fabians talk about and put into their manifesto have become government legislation. How on earth can you say they're not influential?
Well,
Bill, you're living in La La Land.
No, I'm not. I mean, you know, political party members are organisations of all sorts of societies.
But they don't have government ministers all attending their conferences, writing legislation with them in mind.
They're not writing with them in mind. There's a whole host of conferences that government ministers of any party will attend to speak at, and that's what's happening here. And go back in history, and the Fabians were a bulwark against the hard left. If you go back to the 1980s, they were most certainly not at the leading edge of radicalism within the Labour
I'm not saying
Party.
that they're radicals, or I've never said that. I'm just pointing. I just want to get to the point of what I'm saying, and I'll come to you, Lestrade, because the point I'm saying is that we should talk about. I mean, it's sort of, we're told by establishment media and journalists, oh, this is crazy conspiracy. But actually, there is some truth to what we're talking about here, and it's very important. We've got influential groups that there's a light shone on them, because they need to be held accountable if they have got influence with 5 government ministers. One of them is the Prime Minister.
And the Mayor.
Yes. And the Mayor of London, one of the most important cities in the world.
Yeah. It's more than 5 of them. It's quite a lot of senior Labour people. I would ask anyone, I'm very glad you're talking about it, you can go to the Fabian Society website and see their sort of founding principles, which obviously aren't mine because they're clearly socialist. They want big state. You know, when Keir Starmer got elected and said, I want my government to tread lightly upon your lives, I thought, what a load of absolute rubbish. You know, they want big state, high taxes on those who have done well, big benefits bill. It is all those things that are happening, but it will remind people, if you go to the Fabian sort of principles statement, which is on their website, you can see the background. And of course, everyone has think tanks. Every political party operates, you know, with certain people trying to influence policy.
Yes,
you have lobby groups. You have all sorts of networks of people trying to influence people who are going to make decisions from the prime ministerial kind of position. But I just think people have forgotten what socialism is in practice, because we haven't had it, thankfully, for quite a long time. Tony Blair sort of hid it a little bit, tried to make it look fluffy. Keir Starmer is quite far left, as are quite a lot of his cabinet, and I hope people will go and read about it. And
Keir Starmer is a self-confessed socialist.
Yeah.
When people say he's not a socialist, he
And
says himself he's a socialist. Look, the former logo of the Fabian Society was a wolf in sheep's clothing. If that doesn't say it all, come on. They then changed it, I believe, to a turtle to indicate their slow movement. They don't go for revolution. They try and embed themselves in politicians, in institutions, in the civil service. We all know the civil service is holding all governments, to ransom at the moment. The civil service are running this country, and so are the unions. And the Fabians are at the heart of that. Now, the 2024 manifesto, the Fabians basically take credit for influencing much of the Labour manifesto in 2024. So, look, they are influential. I believe they're dangerous. And they need to be looked at.
Yeah,
Bill,
they do.
Adam, you think anyone to the left of Genghis Khan is dangerous?
1 second, you said they were
quite
centrist.
right, Adam.
Their thing
Historic Labour
is
Party
socialism.
terms.
How is socialism centrist? How?
I'm talking about in Labour Party terms. And look, I wouldn't describe myself as a socialist. I describe myself as a social democrat. But it's not a swear word for people to say that they're democratic socialists. But look, in a healthy society, you want a lot of people to be involved in thinking about politics, shaping politics. And I think it's frankly a good thing that those kind of societies exist in all parties. And you've
As long
acknowledged
as
it,
they're
Jane.
open, and I think
Fabian
this
Society
is
open
with the
and
Labour
transparent.
Party.
Yes.
You think about the influence the trade unions, as Adam just raised. I think that's just as sort of interesting, because that's the actual power in trade unions lies with very, very few
Especially
people.
when they march next to Antifa and people like that.
Yeah.
Well,
with
listen,
communist
we've
flags.
got to leave it there, unfortunately. I just want to read out Paul Richards sent me a message because I did ask him to give me a comment on this. He said the Fabian Society is a think tank providing ideas and policies. It's affiliated to Labour, which is why lots of Labour politicians are members. Seen as a good place to write stuff. Hard to think of a senior politician who hasn't been involved, but crucially has no collective policy. There you go. He is the Paul Richards, the honorary treasurer.
Been involved.
And Bill's not a Fabian. There you go. Right, there you go. Right.